your blood is low, then you are really, really in bad shape because your blood is going to pull from your muscles, tissues, organs. It's going to pull from there. And so if it has nothing to pull from, then we're really talking like you need to ASAP get those magnesium levels in check.
You want to jump on that spinach and dark chocolate?
Absolutely.
Are you constantly feeling tired, stressed, or struggling with sleep? What if I told you the solution might lie in a mineral you've been overlooking? Magnesium. Join us today as we explore the transformative power of magnesium with Natalie Jurado, a leading expert and founder of Rooted In. Discover how this essential mineral plays a crucial role in over 300 bodily functions and learn effective ways to boost your health and vitality. Natalie will share her personal journey, valuable insights, and strategies to help you reclaim your energy and well being. Please note the content on Hack to Health is for informational purposes only and not medical advice. Consult a health provider for medical concerns. Opinions expressed are those of the guest and may not reflect my views or those of the podcast. Good afternoon, Natalie. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. And I am so psyched to talk about my absolute favorite topic, magnesium.
Yeah, and for people listening, we talked briefly offline. A lot of people, they hear about it. It's become a lot more prevalent in the conversation now about what you should be taking. But I don't think people understand what it is and like the role it plays in our body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Magnesium is like trending so hard right now in social media. So like most of the time people come to me and they're like, I heard of magnesium. I went to the store and just bought something at my local pharmacy. I don't know what it does. What should I be looking for? What kind should I be taking? So I am happy to answer all those questions about magnesium. It's important, the symptoms, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So what is it? What is magnesium?
So magnesium is a mineral and it's found in your food. It is not a drug. It is not addictive. It's not something scary or anything like that. It's simply a mineral that's in your food. Just like, sodium is a mineral or, potassium. We've got all these wonderful different nutrients and vitamins that we need. Magnesium is just one of the big slew of different things that you need so that you can feel your best.
So making us feel our best, is that sort of optimal in terms of you feel like you have a great night's sleep or you have energy throughout the day?
So this is where magnesium gets incredibly interesting. So it's involved in over 700 different biochemical reactions in our bodies. So that's 700 different things that aren't going to work properly without magnesium. It's also present in every single one of our trillions of cells. So it's got some major roles. Like you mentioned, sleep. Magnesium is involved in sleep, it's involved in nerve conduction, it's involved in blood sugar regulation, it's involved in muscle contractions. So our heart being a muscle, so it's involved in heart health. It's got so many incredible roles. And the problem is when we're deficient in it, it could point to any one of those different symptoms, right? So if you go to your doctor and you're like, hey, doc, I can't sleep. Well, it could be magnesium, it could be something else. Or if you go and you say, hey, I'm having these muscle cramps, it could be magnesium, it could be something else. So that's why it's often termed the invisible deficiency, because oftentimes we're told it's something else instead of starting with the basis of magnesium.
Okay, so how about yourself personally? How did you just come up with the idea that you wanted to learn more about magnesium? Was there a certain problem that you were trying to solve?
Yeah, if you had told me 10 years ago that I would one day become completely and utterly obsessed with magnesium and like read everything I could possibly get my hands on and learn and become this incredible researcher of magnesium, I would have told you you were absolutely crazy. So I got into magnesium because I had a problem to solve, right? So most of the time when we hear people's stories, it's because they're trying to solve a problem. And my problem was horrible insomnia, anxiety, and panic attacks. And I was doing everything that they tell you to do. So I was eating a healthy plant-based diet. I was exercising regularly, managing my lifestyle, got rid of all the toxic chemicals in my house. Like I checked all of the right boxes. And I still felt awful. Like my symptoms were not improving despite all of my best efforts. So I did what anybody would do. I went to the doctor, right? And I said, hey, doc, fix me. And she said, all right, let's do this. And she gave me every test under the sun. I felt like a human pincushion because she was taking so much blood out of me. And then, of course, she sent me to a bunch of different specialists and they did the same thing. And so she compiled all that research, all that information, all of my blood work, all my results, sat me down, looked me straight in the face and said, Natalie, there is nothing wrong with you. She's like, it's all in your head. Your blood work is perfect. You're absolutely normal. And she said, this is just part of what happens as you become a woman of a certain age. So it was the best, worst news that I could possibly get. It was awesome that my blood work was great. Yay, I'm healthy. But on the other side, like, I don't want to feel like this for the rest of my life. I can't deal with these panic attacks. I can't deal with sleeping 2 hours a night. Like, that's not okay. And so I kind of used that as a springboard to figure out what's going on. Started that whole biohacking process that so many of us wind up doing, right? When we're trying to figure out the answer to our problems. Researched acupuncture. I went to a chiropractor. I met with nutritionists. I met with, dietitians. I met with everybody I could to try and find answers. And it was actually at a farmer's market of all places that I bumped into an older lady and we started talking because I can become best friends with anybody within about 5 minutes. I am a chatterbox and that's what happens. So I start talking to her, tell her what's going on. And she's like, have you tried magnesium? I'm like, lady, I would stand upside down on my head and say the alphabet backwards if you tell me it's going to help me sleep. So I'm going to run to the store and get some magnesium. And that's what I did. I ran to the store. I got some magnesium spray because she told me to use it topically and see how I felt. Within a week, I went from sleeping 2 hours a night to sleeping 6 hours a night, which is huge when you deal with terrible insomnia. I didn't have any panic attacks the entire week, and my anxiety started to become manageable. And that's what made me think, wait a second, how did I spend tens of thousands of dollars on doctors, on nutritionists, on specialists, and not get this answer that some lady at the farmer's market told me? Like, what's going on right now in our society that we're not talking about magnesium the way that we should?
When somebody listening and they say, okay, magnesium, I'm having trouble sleeping. Are there different types? Like, could you break down the different types that are out there so people are not as confused?
Absolutely. So what happens is people hear some crazy lady like me talking about magnesium on a podcast and they immediately go on Amazon or they go, to their health food store and they see thousands of different options. Which one do I need? I'm so overwhelmed. And that oftentimes stops people from even exploring magnesium. So there are over 14 different forms of magnesium, and honestly, some of them are really amazing, and then other forms are not so great. So oftentimes when somebody says, hey, I took magnesium and I felt nothing, it's because they took the wrong type. So they're just as a quick kind of rundown of it. I don't want to overwhelm anybody with too much magnesium information. So just as a quick rule of thumb, the form that you absolutely positively want to avoid is magnesium oxide. So this form of magnesium only absorbs at a rate of 4%, meaning the other 96% is going to go right through your digestive tract, and for most people have them in the bathroom all day long, which is quite unpleasant. Nobody wants that, right? So we want to avoid magnesium oxide because it doesn't do a great job. Unfortunately, that is the form of magnesium that is the cheapest and most readily available. If you were to go to your local pharmacy, you're going to see a bunch of different brands of magnesium oxide. So keep that in mind when you're shopping. Magnesium oxide, not a great form. Good forms are going to be your magnesium glycinate, which is typically used for sleep, magnesium malate, which is wonderful for muscle function, wonderful for energy production, magnesium taurate, awesome for heart health, magnesium citrate, which is typically used for digestive health. So there's some really great forms. All of those, any one of those is going to help you boost your magnesium levels. So just make sure to avoid that magnesium oxide and you're off to a really great start.
Got it. Yeah. And you mentioned you had obviously some symptoms that you were trying to figure out. What would you say the most common symptoms of a magnesium deficiency are that people are not recognizing?
When your magnesium levels are low, you're going to be walking around with leg cramps, muscle cramps. You're going to feel really, really tight. Your muscles are going to be much, much more tense. You're going to feel stress. I mean, and most of us feel stress. Like nobody I know is completely stress free, right? But you're going to have an inability to cope with that stress. Like normal stressors that you normally deal with are going to be much more aggravating for you. That can typically lead to some anxiety. You'll deal with insomnia. You'll deal with restless legs. You might have chronic headaches or migraines, hormonal imbalances, high blood pressure. It's also linked to fatigue and high cholesterol and heart palpitations. So like I said before, I mean, it's involved in all these different functions. So when you don't have enough magnesium in your tank, those systems start to break down across the board.
Yeah. Like people I talk to are seemingly health conscious. Like they work out, they, take care of themselves. They try to eat whole foods, right? But why do you think that this magnesium deficiency is becoming so widespread amongst these kind of people that, are deemed health conscious?
It is really, really hard to get enough magnesium in your diet alone. That's why close to 70% of the population is magnesium deficient. So we're talking like 7 out of 10 people. That's huge because magnesium isn't in our food the way that it used to be 50 or 100 years ago. Our farming practices are completely different now than they were ever before. We're farming out of season. We're trying to get more and bigger crops. We're shipping food from one side of the country to the other side of the country, and you don't wind up eating it for weeks on end. So there's so much going on with our food system, with our agricultural system, that the mineral content in our food has decreased exponentially. And then on top of that, there was a time where we would drink water from streams, from rivers, from freshwater sources. And when you see those beautiful, expensive bottles of water at the store that says mineral water, that's coming from a natural source that has been purified and chlorinated and fluoridated over and over and over again. And mineral water is rich in minerals. So when we used to drink from streams, we used to get a lot more minerals in our diet. So when we combine the fact that we're not getting in our water, we're not getting in our food, even when we're eating everything we're supposed to, we wind up with that magnesium deficiency. So for reference, you would have to eat 10 cups of raw spinach every single day just to get the bare minimum amount of magnesium that you need in your diet. And I don't know about you, I love spinach, but not that much.
Yeah, wouldn't be many calories, but definitely a lot of spinach in one day. How about like misconceptions? What are some of the most common misconceptions about magnesium that you encounter?
So the most common misconception that I hear about magnesium is, well, my blood work was fine. I must not need magnesium. And that frustrates me to no end. And the reason why is because about 60% of your body's total magnesium is stored in your bones. The other 40% is in your muscles, tissues, organs. And less than 1% is stored in your blood. So when you go get blood work done, they're just looking at what's happening in less than 1% of your magnesium stores, right? So we're only looking at a teeny tiny amount, which means that you could be chronically deficient for years before it ever shows up in your blood. And unfortunately, what we do is we say, hey, doc, I heard somebody talking about magnesium. I want to get tested. They test it and they say, you're fine. You don't need magnesium. Meanwhile, you're suffering with chronic headaches and leg cramps. You can't sleep at night. You're anxious all the time. You feel moody and irritable. You have a hard time focusing. You're tired. So you're dealing with all the classic symptoms of deficiency, and your doctor saying, hey, you're okay, your blood work's fine. So it's one of the most frustrating things I come across when I talk to people. The National Institute of Health actually says that the best way to assess magnesium deficiency is simply based off of your symptoms. So the National Institute of Health is saying this, we should be following their advice.
Yeah, listen to your body. You know yourself better than anyone else. How about as different life stages, or pregnancy, general aging, athletic training? How does the body's need for the magnesium change as we go through these different stages in life?
Well, one of the key points that you just mentioned, athletic training. What we find is that the more athletic you are, the more active you are, the higher your magnesium demands are. So if you are doing triathlon training or you're out there sweating a bunch, you're doing CrossFit, you are quickly depleting your magnesium levels. And that's why overall, when I speak to athletes, I always hear they always complain, oh yeah, I get leg cramps that wake me up in the middle of the night, or my muscles are constantly twitching, or I feel so tight, or I'm not recovering from a workout as quickly as I'd like to. And that's oftentimes because their magnesium levels are completely torched. That's because magnesium is involved in energy production. So the more energy you're expelling, the more your demands are increasing. And if you're not replenishing that, then you're not making up for that deficit. And it's really frustrating because so many people are like, well, I drink all the sports drinks, I drink the electrolyte powder or the Gatorades or that kind of thing, right? And unfortunately, those don't have any magnesium in it. Like a bottle of Gatorade has plenty of sodium and
Sodium.
plenty of potassium, but there's no magnesium in it.
Yeah.
So we oftentimes get kind of a little confused over what has magnesium and what doesn't, especially in athletes. Other populations that are really, really struggling right now are people who deal with excessive stress. So if you are in a high stress lifestyle, you're, I don't know, CEO of a corporation, or if you're a police officer, or if you're somebody who just deals with a constant stress, or maybe you're a school teacher because they're very stressed out too, right?
Sure.
So if you're in those fields, you're dealing with stress at a much higher level than the rest of us, right? And the more stressed out you become, the more magnesium depletes. So you'll quickly deplete your magnesium levels whenever you're stressed. Unfortunately, one of the symptoms of low magnesium is excessive stress. So you're quickly depleting the levels, you're not making up for it, and you're making that stress response so much worse. It's like this huge cycle that just keeps feeding itself. So typically people who are in that age group where they're really stressed out, maybe you just started a family, maybe you're really getting, started in your career and trying to make those leaps in your career, those people tend to have higher magnesium demands as well.
So those are the ones we would say are the most susceptible to the deficiencies?
Well, actually, we find in the research, those are people who need to be more aware of magnesium.
Okay.
Those are people who are like, hey, it's an easy problem for you to fix. You should just make sure that you're on top of it. But the people, according to the National Institute of Health, the people who struggle the most with magnesium deficiency are adolescents and the elderly. And when I was trying to figure out, I was like, why during adolescence? Why would that be such a huge need for magnesium? And it dawned on me that sugar depletes your magnesium levels at a rapid rate, right? So for every one molecule of sugar that you eat, it takes 54 molecules of magnesium to balance that out.
Wow.
So the more, and who eats the most sugar?
Of
I don't know
course, the
about you.
teens. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. When I was a teenager, I was eating every cookie, cake, and sugary soda that I can get my hands on because that's what you do as a teen, right? And
Exactly.
so I believe, and it's just my theory, but I believe that might just be the root cause of it is that adolescents maybe aren't getting the most varied diet. Maybe they're not eating their spinach like they're supposed to. And perhaps that could be a huge reason why they're so low in magnesium.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone ever did a study on school lunches even to see what they're getting. I mean, it depends on the city and the state, right? But what about if we took it the other way and we said, are there people in certain groups of people that should avoid magnesium supplementation?
Yeah, there's two groups of people that need to be much more conscious and much more aware of how much magnesium that they're getting. And that's people who have very low blood pressure. That's because magnesium will naturally lower your blood pressure. So if you're already low and then you take magnesium on top of that, you could be putting yourself a little too low. The other people that need to be very concerned are people with kidney disease. So if you have kidneys that aren't functioning properly, that are not doing their job properly, then it puts you for risk of overdosing on magnesium really quickly. And the reason why is because our bodies have this incredible fail-safe mechanism, right? So if you take too much magnesium all at once, your kidneys are going to process out anything that you don't need, and it's going to get shifted into your digestive tract. And for the most part, your body will get rid of it through your digestive tract, which is why if you take too much magnesium, it leaves you in the bathroom all day long. So that's our fail-safe mechanism. The problem is if your kidneys aren't working properly, then they can't filter out that excess magnesium and get rid of it. So if you have kidney issues, you have to be super, super aware of how much magnesium that you're getting on a daily basis. As long as your kidneys are functioning, even if it's just one, if it's functioning and doing its job and filtering out properly, and you don't have any diminished capacity, then you should be fine. And of course, you want to speak to your healthcare practitioner first. But I actually have a family member who has one kidney, and she does great using topical magnesium.
How about if someone who maybe knows they have a deficiency, but they're like, you know what? I'm not going to get into this supplements or topicals or whatever it might be. I'm good. What serious health complications can arise from, having this deficiency over time?
So the biggest, I guess, scariest symptom of low magnesium is going to be heart complications, heart palpitations, that type of thing. And the reason why is so our heart is a muscle, right? And calcium, when you take calcium in your body, it's going to cause your muscles to tighten up. When you take magnesium, it causes your muscles to relax. So when our heart beats, it's this beautiful balance between magnesium and calcium going back and forth, making our heart beat, right? The problem in our society is that we are getting entirely too much calcium in our diets. So the other day, I'm at the grocery store and I saw bread now enriched with calcium, orange juice with calcium, milk with like everything has cereal with calcium in it. So everything is like super fortified and super enriched with calcium. And unfortunately, we're not getting enough magnesium to balance out that calcium. We see that 70% of us don't get enough magnesium, and then we add extra and extra and extra calcium on top of that. And that's where those problems start to shift. So not only does it give our heart palpitations because it's not beating the way it's supposed to, but the way I like to describe the relationship between calcium and magnesium is this. Magnesium's the bus driver for calcium in our body. So calcium gets on that magnesium bus, magnesium takes that calcium and puts it where it's supposed to go. So some of it goes to our muscles and then a lot of it goes into our bones, right? The problem is when we get all that calcium without magnesium, then calcium doesn't have a bus driver to tell it where to go. So it winds up going places where it shouldn't. So that means calcifications in our joints causing arthritis. It means calcifications, in our gallbladder, calcifications in our kidney causing kidney stones, and then calcifications in our heart. And that can cause some serious issues. So we want to make sure that we are getting adequate calcium and adequate magnesium in a proper ratio.
Got it. For people who they maybe have a lifestyle, we mentioned athletics, that are contributing to these deficiencies, how are ways that they can sort of mitigate the risk? Maybe they're not at the point where they need to be on some sort of a magnesium aid, but they want to make sure that they kind of keep it in check so it doesn't get to that level.
Yeah, so easy things you can do is eat those magnesium rich foods,
Spinach, yep.
eat that spinach.
Mhm.
It's the dark green leafy vegetables, your nuts, your seeds, and even dark chocolate. So, dark chocolate is a great source of magnesium. Of course, that can't make up a bulk of your diet, so please don't go out there and eat dark chocolate all day, every day. But, it could be part of your magnesium regimen. Foods like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, so those are great sources of magnesium. And it's as simple as throwing it all in a smoothie. That's the easiest way to do it. Throw some spinach in your smoothie, some pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, blend that up, have a great day. Coconut water is also a great source of magnesium as well. So that's a great, easy way to start incorporating more magnesium rich foods into your diet. And then another simple, easy, like no brainer way to get magnesium is to simply buy yourself some Epsom salt. So, Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, right? And Epsom salt is available everywhere, the grocery store, Walmart. The other day I saw it at the dollar store. So, like,
Oh,
it's so unbelievably affordable. And simply putting that in a bath, soaking for 20 minutes with some Epsom salt can really give your body lots and lots of magnesium. And then for those of you who do not enjoy soaking in a tub or they don't have a bathtub, you can even take that Epsom salt and put it in a foot basin and soak your feet in that every single day or several times a week to help get that magnesium into your body. And that's something you can do while watching TV or while you're working. If you work from home, you can keep a basin under your desk and soak your feet easily. So that's just like a super easy way to start getting magnesium into your body.
and you mentioned briefly testing, right, for this deficiency, and your own experience about how everything checks out. You look, is blood work the main way to test for this? Obviously, you experienced, right, limitations. These limitations to the approaches that the general way of testing for deficiencies. What can you explain those?
Yeah, so blood work is going to be the gold standard according to what we have accessible to us. So there are more advanced cellular tests for magnesium, but they're not available to the public at this time, at least. So unfortunately, magnesium serum tests or magnesium RBC tests, which are the two blood tests that are available to you, those are going to be basically all we have to work with at this time. Between the two, magnesium serum is not quite as accurate as magnesium RBC tests. So the RBC is where they look at the red blood cells, but both of them are really looking at your blood. So the rule of thumb though is if your blood is low, then you are really, really in bad shape because your blood is going to pull from your muscles, tissues, organs. It's going to pull from there. And so if it has nothing to pull from, then we're really talking like you need to ASAP get those magnesium levels in check.
You want to jump on that spinach and dark chocolate.
Absolutely.
And stress playing the factor that you touched on as well. How exactly is it reducing your stress?
Our body requires magnesium in order to mitigate stress. And some of the ways that that happens is magnesium helps activate that parasympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system is your go, 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 get ready, get stuff done kind of system. And we need that, right? Like, especially in the mornings when I got to get to work. So I need that sympathetic nervous system to start working. The parasympathetic nervous system is that rest, relax, unwind, de-stress kind of system. And unfortunately, we get stuck in sympathetic mode. And so what happens is when we get stuck in sympathetic mode, we're feeling that stress all day long and we don't give our body time to rest and recover. So magnesium helps activate that de-stress relaxation mode. It also helps lower your cortisol levels, and cortisol is your stress hormone. So, of course, the higher your cortisol levels are, the more stressed out, the more strung out, mind racing, overthinking that you're going to feel. Cortisol should be going kind of like on a wave cycle. It should be peaking throughout like the morning around 10 o'clock in the morning, and then should be kind of going low in the evening. And when you're stuck in in an imbalance, that cortisol can be spiking all different types of day, all different types of night. So a lot of times when you're up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you just can't sleep, oftentimes it's because your cortisol cycle is just kind of all over the place. And magnesium helps regulate that.
Is there a certain time of the day where you feel like, say, someone is doing a topical approach that's most effective?
If you're doing topical, use it all day long, anytime you need it. It's funny because I always say magnesium is going to help give you energy, but it's also going to help you fall asleep. And people are like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
How
it's
can
like
it do
opposite.
two,
Yeah.
right? How can it do two totally different things? And the reason why magnesium is going to help your body function the way it was intended to function. It's going to help put your body in balance, normalize what needs to be normalized, right? So your body is supposed to have energy throughout the day. You're supposed to have peaceful, calm energy. You're supposed to be able to get up and move and not feel so sluggish. And at nighttime, you're supposed to be able to sleep. Like
Yeah.
that's when you're supposed to recover. So when you have adequate magnesium, your body is doing all those 700 different functions properly, firing on all cylinders, doing what it needs to do, and you wind up having beautiful energy throughout the day, and you're able to relax and fall asleep at nighttime. So as far as topical goes, use it during the day if you're feeling tired. For me, that usually happens around 3 o'clock. I'm hitting that wall. I'm like, I got to get through the rest of my day. And for me, I'll apply topical magnesium, and then I'll apply it right before I go to bed as well, so I can fall asleep and get to sleep no problem. The opposite would be taking supplements, right? Same thing. You can take it during the day, you can take it at nighttime, but you want to make sure that you're taking it with food. So it's best to take magnesium with your meals and to break it up throughout the day. Because if you give yourself too much magnesium all at once, then we have those bathroom issues that we all want to avoid, right? Because our body can't process it at all, will absorb what it can, and then kick out anything it can't use. So if you are going to opt to take a pill or a powder, then I would recommend taking that dose and splitting it up throughout the day in smaller doses, and make sure that you take it with your meals so you have adequate time to absorb that magnesium, get that into your cells, get it working before you take any more of it.
What are your personal or recommended natural ways that you feel are your favorite ways to increase magnesium intake?
So whenever it comes to magnesium, I always say there's a three-step way of doing it, right? So the easy three-step plan for getting your magnesium levels boosted and feeling better is, of course, start with food. We're going to eat all of the spinach that we can, choke down as much as we can. So we're going to eat our greens, our nuts, our seeds, incorporate them into our meals as often as possible. And we're going to see how we feel. Okay, so we started with that spinach. Maybe we're doing a smoothie every day with chia seeds, all that good stuff. How do you feel? Check in, check your symptoms. When you're doing this, having just a quick journal entry, writing it down once a week. Hey, this is how I feel this week. My restless leg got a little bit better, but maybe I'm still dealing with headaches. Or maybe I'm still feeling kind of anxious, but hey, I haven't had a panic attack this week. So we're going to look at our symptoms. Then we're going to add topical, because topical is not going to give you any kind of side effects. It's easy to use. You can use it on children. You can use it on the elderly. You can use it while you're pregnant. So topical is a great way to get more magnesium into your system, especially when you're trying to avoid those side effects and you're slowly kind of incorporating more magnesium into your life. So start using topical. Start once a day. Start either using a spray, a gel, a cream, or doing those foot baths that I mentioned earlier. Start doing that. And then look at your symptoms. Hey, how am I doing? Are my symptoms getting better? Is anything staying the same? What else can I do? And then move to using topical twice a day. Am I getting better? Check in again. And then lastly is starting to use those supplements. So starting to maybe get yourself a nice magnesium glycinate that you take, or magnesium malate, seeing how you feel, starting with the lowest dose possible and then working your way up. So the RDA, or the recommended amount that we're supposed to be getting every single day, is 350 to 400 milligrams a day. And these are dietary standards. So we're talking about pills and powders. So
Okay.
350 to 400 milligrams a day is what you're supposed to aim for. Now, that being said, if you are deficient, you may need to take more, because the RDA was created to keep healthy people healthy, right? So if you're deficient, then you're going to need more. And of course, you're going to want to talk to your physician, your naturopath, your functional medicine provider, and ask them if it's okay for you to take more, if your body is healthy enough to take more magnesium. There are brands that make, as low as 50 milligrams per pill. So I prefer using brands that have smaller doses so that you can break it up throughout the day and not have to take it all at once. So if you find a brand that has 50, 100, or 150 milligrams per pill, that's going to you're gonna be better off doing that than taking one giant honkin' pill with a bunch of magnesium in it.
Of course. Do you see anything on the horizon or any recent research advancements in magnesium therapy that are showing promise that might make things a little more exacting or that you might be excited about?
Oh, I wish. I wish.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to the magnesium research, there's not a lot of money in it. Typically, research is done by, companies, namely pharmaceutical companies who have a vested interest in
Sure. Yeah.
conducting those studies.
Yeah.
And since
Yeah.
magnesium is in our food, there's no vested interest in anyone doing these studies, which is very unfortunate. Most of the studies that we do find are done at the university level. Some college kids that are learning about nutrition, they decide to run some studies, and we get some smaller scale studies, usually like less than 100 participants and not for more than a year long study. So the research, unfortunately, is very limited because it's just not a moneymaker. I mean, it's not a sexy mineral, right? It's not so unfortunately it doesn't get the attention that it really, really deserves.
Yeah. Well, hopefully things will start improving in that area. You've shared so much today. If we had to sort of summarize like the top steps people should be taking, maybe they're not deficient, but they don't want to become deficient to start improving these magnesium levels. What would you say that those steps should be that they should start today?
So the easiest thing to do is to limit your sugar. Like limit your sugar because that sugar is really going to put you in a bad spot. It's going to burn through your magnesium. It's going to make it harder for you to function, right? Also, caffeine and alcohol are major ways to deplete your magnesium levels. So, and it's hard because I'm saying everything that we all know is true. It's just sometimes hard to enact, right?
No, I was going to go the other way of like the things that people really enjoy, right? The sugar, the caffeine, the sugar, the coffee.
Yeah, getting rid of the stuff that everybody loves so much, right? Yeah, but those are huge ways that we're draining our magnesium levels, and that's a simple thing for us to do because it doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost anything other than maybe some enjoyment, but it's not too much, right? Everything in
No,
moderation.
of
So
course.
that's a super easy thing that you can do. And then, of course, add those magnesium rich foods into your diet. Buy yourself a bag of Epsom salt or get yourself a magnesium cream or a magnesium spray that you can put on your skin every single day to make up for those deficiencies. The one thing that I do want to make sure that I definitely don't think I've made clear enough is that you cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet.
Hmm.
So that's one of those like key things that I always want to drive home is you could, take all the supplements in the world, but if you're eating pizza and drinking lots of soda and alcohol and beer and all the stuff that we love, then it doesn't matter what you take, it's not going to make a difference. I always tell people that supplementing with magnesium while you're still living a very high stress lifestyle, not managing your life, not managing your diet, it's like trying to put out a fire with a water gun. It's just not going to work. So we got to get the fire under control and then we could talk about, putting some water on it. But yeah, it's really important that we make the steps, we make the choices, we do what we know is effective, which is good diet, good lifestyle, take care of your body, and then talk about supplementing.
Yeah. How about for people, where can people listening find more information about you and how to potentially work with you or, get advice from you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can be found across all social media at berootedin.com. I'm most active on TikTok, so that's the easiest way to get a hold of me at berootedin.
Yeah, no, and I will make sure all these links are in the show notes. So thank you, for today sharing all this with the audience. And berootedin.com is where you can find Natalie. Very active on TikTok, and her channel is very entertaining, and she has a great following. So check her out. And thank you again. Great to meet you today, Natalie.
Thank you so much, and thanks for what you're doing to spread the message of health and wellness to everybody who's out there.